Netflix, Uber, PayPal, Twitter, we can see that so many applications are using Node.js. So what's the reason behind it? Node.js, despite having so many limitations, why industry is still choosing Node.js? So is Node.js a really good choice? So many questions are there. And to answer these questions, we are here with Aishwary Rawat, a senior Node.js developer working at 𝒃𝒂𝒄𝒂𝒏𝒂𝒄𝒚𝒕𝒆𝒄 Technology, who would be helping us figuring out why one should use Node.js. So hello Aishwarya, I hope you are doing good. Please go ahead and introduce yourself to the folks watching.
Yeah. Hello, Archita. Thank you. I hope you are doing good as well. Before we begin with the discussion, let me quickly tell you about my experience with Node.js. I have been working with Node.js and other client-side JS frameworks for the past 7 years. I've worked on various projects that were from different domains like banking, retail, telecom, and that have utilized the advantages of Node.js.
So moving on to the content which we are going to discuss in this video. We will be discussing the use cases of Node.js, in which we will be covering where should you use Node.js, where can we use Node.js, and where we should not go with Node.js. And then moving on to our major question, why use Node.js, in which Aishwarya will be covering a few technicalities as well. And then later we'll be comparing Node.js with other backend technologies. And lastly, we'll be covering a few questions and a few concerns which a decision maker would be having when they are going to choose any backend technology. So yeah, as said, Node.js is not a silver bullet new platform that will dominate the web development world. It's a platform that fills a particular need. I know Aishwarya would be the right person to comprehend this sentence, and we'll be covering this scenario in our use cases. So moving on to our first use case, that is when should you use Node.js?
If we talk about when should we use Node.js, like I have a couple of scenarios through which I can explain when can we use Node.js. Like for example, if you have a requirement that needs high level of data traffic, then you should go ahead with Node.js. An example is that NASA has improved its database access time with Node.js. So this is one of the advantage of Node. If you want to handle like a huge amount of concurrent connections, then you should definitely go for Node, since like Netflix is there, which utilizes this advantage to maintain millions of user connections and their data streaming functionality as well. The biggest advantage of Node is that it is highly scalable. So if you want to develop scalable applications, you should go ahead with Node. Um, we have Netflix that took advantage of this facility and has dramatically reduced its startup time from 10 seconds to it is now 1 second, which is like 70% of reduction. And there is one more use case of Node, which is not conventional. That is basically if you want to collect multiple data from multiple source points, then you can use Node for this purpose. And Uber has utilized this as an advantage by connecting to 600 plus APIs by using Node as their middleware server. And the final use case that I can think of is the IoT, the scenario Internet of Things. It is currently taking all over the world, and Node.js works perfectly well with IoT since it has web sockets, and it was meant to handle high streams of data, and it was meant to handle concurrent connections as well. So IoT is one of the use cases when we should go for Node.js.
So I guess concluding this section is we can use Node.js when an application is dealing with so many concurrent requests, and when uh, application should be scalable enough, when you want to develop a scalable application. So my question is, what does this scalable application means? What does it mean when you are telling that Node.js offers high scalability?
Okay, so if I talk about scalability in generally means that growth of an application. So an application can grow in two ways, like scalability happens vertically and horizontally. So horizontal scaling means that you are adding more servers to the application, and vertical scaling means that you have one server and you are increasing the capacity of that server. So these are the two types of scalabilities. And Node works perfectly well in both of these scenarios since it runs on a single thread. So for example, if you are vertically scaling your application, Node can spin up more threads in the same server to match up the capacity of the server. And if you're running on different server instances, that Node.js, which runs on a single thread, can have different single threads on each and every server and can handle concurrent requests there also. So Node.js with its dynamic scalability will help you out in building scalable applications.
Thank you for answering this question. Moving on to our next section, where can we use Node.js?
Yeah. So, like we have discussed, like Node.js is used to build fast, scalable network application that is capable of handling, simultaneous connections with high throughput. So, the instances where these scenarios occur are, let's say, we have a chat-based application, right? So, in the chat-based application, we have the requirement like it should be multi-user, it should be lightweight, it should handle high amount of traffic, it should be data intensive, and it is generally distributed across various devices. So Node can be used here because it is meant to do all of these things that a chat-based application requires. Generally, what happens is the database, when it receives high amount of concurrent data, the database generally bottlenecks. Database read and write are always blocking operations. Node's solution to this is that what it does is whenever there is a database operation, it first acknowledges the client that okay, database is successful. And after that, the database is truly written. So the write operation happens afterwards, but then the success information is sent first. Now, which scenarios we can use this sort of a behavior is that, for example, we have Facebook, right? We have the like button on Facebook. Now, these are the scenarios where user does not need to worry about whether my like has been registered in the database or not. User is just worried that, okay, if I'm liking something, I should see that I'm liking something. So in such scenarios, Node.js is high responsive under heavy load. It works here perfectly well. Then if I talk about data streaming applications, so traditionally we have like HTTP requests were treated like an isolated event. So first the entire request should get served, and after that any processing used to happen. But it's not the case. HTTP requests are always in streams. So when I talk about Node.js, the technology is expert in handling these streams of data. So now, if you want to do data streaming, like live data streaming, you want to encode the video on the fly. So all these things can happen with Node.js. And the final use case is that, yeah, like I said, we have you can extract multiple data from multiple resources. So basically, Uber right now is doing that. Uber is basically using Node.js to uh, request multiple third-party APIs and get the data and then process that data on their end. And like it's the count is almost 600 plus APIs that Uber connects to. So these are the things and these are the places where you can use Node.js.
Okay, so I guess Node.js works fine when you are dealing with so many datas and requests. Okay, so I'm not sure, but I have heard about some security threats that Node.js has. Uh, Maybe they are recovered right now, but yeah, the next concern is when should not we use Node.js?
Okay, so yeah, you are correct. So there were a lot of security threats that were there before. So what used to happen was Node is actually was in its early stages. We had a lot of threats like there were a lot of security issues with Node. There was the relational database compatibility was not there. Then we had the CPU intensive tasks. We because Node.js runs on a single thread, we were not able to do those CPU intensive processing. So with time, with new packages that are introduced in the node environment in the npm, like for relational database we have the SQLize, for CPU intensive operations we have the cluster module. So with all these upcoming modules, we are able to do everything that we were not able to do. So previously, like you said, the security issues. Due to those issues, there were a lot of financial based application and fintech applications, which were very skeptical about going forward with Node.js. But what has happened is with the introduction of newer modules, the introduction of any security modules, and math modules as well. Fintech applications have started to move towards Node.js to utilize the advantages of Node.js. Uh, for example, if I talk about PayPal, we have Morgan Stanley, we have Mastercard, we have Scotia Bank. So all these are financial-based giants, and they utilize Node.js's advantages into their application. They have integrated it in such a way to reduce the cost, to reduce the downtime, to handle concurrent requests. So yeah, so the basic disadvantages which were there previously have been turned into advantages, and now people have started utilizing in places where Node was not utilized previously.
Okay, so I guess there is no such domain or industry where Node.js cannot work or is not compatible enough. Yeah, the next section is why use Node.js? Like, what's the reason behind why Node.js is so popular? Why decision makers are deciding and choosing Node.js over other technologies?
Yeah, so Archita, like there is two-part answer to this question. So if I talk about the two parts, they are business and technology. So if I talk about business, like so your requirement can be a threefold requirement. You would want a low cost of development. You would want a reliable app that sustains under millions of user subscription. And most importantly, you would want to be entering the market as early as possible. So opting Node.js as a tech stack would solve all the three requirements. Since it's a JS-based language, you will not require a different team for different stack. Also, the entire development time reduces because of the same reason. You don't need an additional setup for that. And Node.js is able to handle, like we discussed, heavy data traffic and heavy concurrent connections. So generally, it reduces the overall development time and it helps you to hit the market early. The deployment of Node.js is also very simple on any cloud platforms or any server that you wish to deploy it on. So these are the basic reasons on the business end why you should, go ahead with Node.js. And if I talk about the technology part, so I'll dive a little deep. So Node.js works in a very interesting way. So if we compare it with traditional web serving techniques, like where each connection spawns a new thread, what happens is it takes up system RAM, and eventually system RAM will bottle out. Like the bottleneck will get reached for system RAM. Now, how Node.js operates is that it operates on a single thread, and that single thread is handled by the event loop in a non-blocking way. So this way, it is able to handle concurrent connections in one event loop, right? Let's take an example. Like I have one thread, and that thread is of 2 MB of memory, and I have a system that is running on 8 GB of RAM. So if I calculate the theoretical maximum number of concurrent connection that I can achieve is 4,000, and this is also with the cost of context switching, which is there in traditional applications like Java, .NET, etc. But with Node.js, it avoids all this by having that non-blocking asynchronous behavior. So with Node.js and the same system capacity, we'll be able to achieve 1 million concurrent connections and over 600,000 concurrent WebSocket connections. So this is the difference between other technologies and why companies like Netflix are choosing Node.js to communicate directly with the user requests. And yeah, so these are the technological advantages why we should go for Node.js.
We can say that Node.js benefits both the business and technical wise as well. Technically as well. So yeah, okay. Now let's discuss about Node.js with other technologies or versus other technologies. Let's compare Node.js with them. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we compare the current scenario where we have Java, we have other frameworks of Java, we have .NET and then other frameworks of .NET. We have other, we have Ruby on Rails and other different technologies like Python. So Node.js, like at the start, we had discussed that it is not just built for web applications or enterprise level applications. Like it is there to fulfill a particular need. So, for example, if you have a requirement of building a large scale application which is very CPU intensive, you should definitely go forward with Java. We have Python, we have .NET, right? But that does not mean that you should not or you cannot use Node.js with that. So the main advantage of Node.js is that it can be used with any of the current technologies. It can be used with Java, it can be used with .NET, it can be used with Python, it can be used with anything. So the disadvantages of Java, Python can be turned into advantages when we are using it with Node.js. So I will not compare Node.js with other programming languages, but yeah, the benefits of Node.js can always help to the disadvantages of what Java, Python might have.
Okay, so I guess comparing Node.js straightly to other technologies with other technologies, that is not so much wise. But obviously, Node.js bridges the gap which
Correct.
other backend technologies does not have. Or okay, so we can definitely leverage the benefits Node.js has to offer. Now we'll be covering a few concerns and few mostly asked questions, in which the first question is about the scalability that Node.js provides.
Yeah. So, like you had asked earlier, like what is scalability? So,
Yeah.
in that section, I had defined it that scalability is generally the growth of an application and how fast the application can grow. So, if I talk about Node.js, because it is running on a single thread and its primary behavior is to handle non-blocking input-output calls, it takes up very few resources and helps the application to gain concurrent connections. So, like I had discussed earlier, like if we have a small system, if it is able to handle 4,000 requests with Node.js, it can handle up to 1 million requests. So, in the current system scenario, also Node.js is highly scalable. But if you start adding more servers to it, then the scalability of Node.js will increase as much as the server capacity increases, as much as the number of server increases. So the internal ability of Node and how the node works allows Node to grow as much as possible. So this in terms of scalability, Node is highly scalable.
Okay. So the next question is about the security, because we have heard Node.js was having so many security threats. So what are your opinions on
Yeah. So yes, Node.js is basically a JavaScript based language. So JavaScript generally was very open and Node.js initially had a lot of security threats. But with the module introduction, with the introduction of newer modules which are made, with the community support, Node.js has a complete package where it provides security to everything that is from accesses across scripting attacks, from broken access control, SQL injection, cross-site forgery requests, default cookie session name, data leaks, and there are many more security threats which are already covered in these modules. So there is a slight disadvantage with Node is that there are a lot of modules or packages which utilizes third-party open source packages. So if you are utilizing those kind of packages which are internally utilizing open source packages, then you have to make sure that you are putting in additional security to protect your application. So if you just have to make sure what kind of packages you are using, otherwise the Node application is very secure.
it? Okay. That's a relief for those who were backing off because of security threats that Node.js has. Okay, so our last concern is, or the last question is, how successful Node.js is with Internet of Things?
Yeah. So, Internet of Things is basically like devices, embedded devices, which are communicating through the internet, and they require high data streams, they require high connections, they require faster response time. So, Node, with its advantages, and Node with the purpose for it was built, works perfectly well with IoT. Node.js has also a functionality called WebSockets, through which it can connect with other embedded devices, and this push-based system is like highly popular with Node.js and IoT development. So if I talk about companies like Microsoft, they have also adopted Node for its IoT development and its developer resources. So yeah, so Node will works really well with IoT web applications or IoT applications.
Okay, Aishwarya, my last question to your this answer is that I heard push-based system, and I'm not sure what does that mean. So, what is push-based
Okay.
system?
Okay. So basically, in traditional, if I talk about traditional web, what used to happen is if you are a user, you have to send a request to the server, and then the server will respond automatically. Correct?
Okay.
Here with Node.js, what has happened is you have two servers which are there. One is a WebSocket server which is maintained separately, and then we have a normal server from which you can send in requests. So if I talk about, let's say, a chat-based application, you are sending something to the server, right? And there are groups of people who are connected to a chat-based application. Now, what has happened is you are sending something, so that message should be reflected into all the people who are connected to the system, right?
Okay, yeah.
With WebSocket generally what it does is it has a server which is listening on the client side as well as on the server side.
Hmm.
So when you send in some data, the server picks up the data and it sends a push notification to all the clients, all the web server client servers who are connected to that particular socket. So because of this two-way communication between the server and the client, all the data or the message that you have sent is successfully notified to other users that, okay, you have got a message. So this is basically what WebSocket is. So
Okay.
the communication from the server to the client
Hmm.
directly with notification is what a push-based system is.
Okay. Thank you for clearing this.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it. I hope the video has helped you clear your doubts. Thank you, Aishwarya, for your time and sharing your insight with us. So for the viewers watching, if you have any questions, please you can comment below and we will answer them. Also hit like, subscribe and share if you thought the video was valuable. Again, thank you so much for watching and thank you, Aishwarya, again. Yeah.
Thank you, Archita, for having me. Thank you so much.